everyone, and welcome back to Lowbow Spark podcast. I'm well aware, different height, different accent, everything. I'm prettier. But this is not, I am not Lowbow. I am well aware. Lowbow is taking some time out at the moment. So he has asked a few of us from the community to step in and do this. You may have noticed that I was on this before. I actually did this for him when he came back from a long break as well. So for all intents and purposes, I'm Lowbow today. I just sound a little different. I'm not quite Southern American, but I'm Southern English, so that'll just have to do. So today I am joined by Lauren, who has got a journey with mental health, also has education in mental health as well, because we like to have that kind of mix of both if we can. Obviously, there's Lauren's story as well as kind of what she's told is meant to be other people's stories, so we can get into the differences and the nuances of that as well. So how are you doing, Lauren?
I'm okay. Just finished work. Just got out of pajamas. I'm all good.
Yeah, if anyone wondering, what do you mean you just got out of pajamas? Because Lauren works from home, I got a message just before this podcast that said, oh, wait a minute, I've got to get out of pajamas. So
In a pink snuddy.
it's comfortable at least. I mean, I work from home as well, but I'm in a t-shirt. There we go. Anyway, so I told you beforehand kind of how we're going to work, and I'm going to be keeping this similar to how Lowbow would do it, but just a little bit more to my nuance. So, Lauren, what is your journey in mental health?
My mental health journey, per se, started going downhill when I was maybe 15, was when I started having some friends kill themselves, and it wasn't very nice. So I went on antidepressants. It was sertraline I was on first. It was
Okay. So that's a hell of a one to start off on. Okay.
yeah. Sertraline I was on. No, yeah, that was right. Ignore me. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so 15 years old, sertraline I was on, distracted me. And then yeah, basically was on that for a little while. Took a bit of a while to get used to that because I used to be very up and down with my emotions like all the time. Like I'd see a video and I would cry for like hours if it was something sad. So like I watched Hatchie, A Dog's Tale, that film, and would just cry for hours. It was not good. And so I've always struggled a little bit with sort of managing the emotions that I have. And so the sertraline sort of helped me to balance that out a little bit, I think. But obviously, teenage years, you're a bit all over the place anyway. And
I was
then
homeless.
I wasn't quite that all over the place.
and many people remember Stephen Fry. He was in prison. Anyway, sorry, carry on. I'll be just less distracted.
I didn't know that.
He was in prison for credit card fraud. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So was on antidepressants for a while. They seemed to be working okay. And then I had lots of other circumstances with other friends and issues and things. And I started to want to not be here anymore. So OD'd on my sertraline, then obviously had to come off of the sertraline. And then I was off of them for a couple of years. And in that couple of years, I finished college and then was like, okay, I'm gonna go to uni. I took 2 years off, so they were all right those 2 years because nothing really happened. So good. And then started college, uni was obviously very stressful. And I was in not a very nice relationship at the time. So that made my mental health go very downhill again. Then got put on fluoxetine, was the one after that. Is that how you pronounce it?
Fluoxetine, yeah.
That's it, whatever it's called.
I've been on it as well, yeah.
Yeah. And I was on that for a while. That got put up twice, I believe, when I was not doing too great, and they did like med reviews and things. But I was put on that because I basically had a bit of a, I don't know what you call it, a bit of a moment, shall we say, and tried to OD on I think it was paracetamol at the time. I can't remember. Something.
Surprisingly easy to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly easy. It's incredibly awful that Poundland let you buy 3 packs of 16 paracetamol.
Mm.
And they don't even question it, which is a bit. So I had obviously a very big dip then, and actually was in Canterbury. So when Poundland, Tesco's, Superdrug, Boots, and just all the just did the rounds.
Yeah.
Then obviously I took quite a few, but I was okay. And then I was sent to Laurel House, which is a place in Canterbury who basically does like emergency things sometimes, and like crisis teams and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of them because they did like an assessment on me, and I was in there for maybe 20 minutes, and they basically asked me everything that was going on, how I was feeling, what I was doing, and everything, and sort of. And that the guide said to me, well, you're not really severe enough for us to take you on our crisis team, but I think you may have some sort of personality disorder. And then sent me back to the GP and told me to go on antidepressants again, which was useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few issues there. I mean, firstly, you've basically just said to someone that tried to OD, you're not really trying to OD. Just
Yeah.
never the fucking thing to say. And it's we'll put an end to this right now. There's this assumption that if people take tablets to try and kill themselves and they're trying to kill themselves, yeah, they are. Just yeah, they fucking are. End of. Just because they've chosen the way that it's because I think people think, oh yeah, but you can get over that easier. If you OD on any kind of drug and it's gone far enough, the irony is that you will be on some kind of drug for the rest of your life because you've destroyed your organs. Because they progressively shut down over the next few days unless you're taken off of them quickly. But it's always advertised as the nicer way to go, and so that's why people will tend to often go for it. That doesn't mean they're not trying to do it. So if you know someone that is doing that, fucking tell someone they are serious. Anyway, and then telling you, oh, you have a personality, some kind of personality disorder. That could be fucking anything. I mean, yeah.
At the time, I was just like, okay. And then I asked the doctor about it, like if they'd sent me back to the GP, and the GP was like, oh, well, I'm not entirely sure about that. I can't really tell you whether you have a personality disorder or not. And that was the last I heard of it. And I'm like, okay.
Medical records, but you know. So you OD'd on the sertraline? Had you induced serotonin syndrome then?
What? Have I what?
Had you induced serotonin syndrome? Okay, so did you
I
start
haven't heard
seeing?
of that.
Okay, so had you started hallucinating because of ODing on sertraline?
I did start hallucinating. I didn't know if that was a thing
Okay,
though.
so that was serotonin syndrome. Almost definitely, and that's not a guarantee. Of course, there's a lot of other things that the mental health issues you were having at the same time as well, but that is one of the biggest indicators of inducing serotonin syndrome, which is something that you can do when you try and OD on something that's already upping your serotonin. It's weird. It's one of those things that you might be suffering from hallucinations and audio visual, but then if you go the other end of it, you'll do the same to your body. So yeah, that's likely what you did. So if somebody had medically induced themselves into serotonin syndrome, put them back onto a fucking serotonin, it's just
These are
putting
great.
someone, putting someone back onto an SSRI is not the thing to do. Anyone out there that's currently studying for anything, don't put someone back on an SSRI if they've already induced something related to serotonin. Just no. That second S means serotonin, people. Okay. So, I mean, obviously, during this time, I knew as well, I was not as up on mental health as I am now. I was a little bit, but I mean, I suffered for a long time as well. But I suppose you came to anyone that's wondering. I've known Lauren for a number of years. I used to be her self-defense instructor. So she turned up to be able to punch.
You used to punch me.
I never punched you. I threw you on the ground, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I punched you ever.
No.
She got to punch me a few times. So that's how you deal with stress better. You go to a proper class and you hit people. That's how I do it, give them a helmet to wear and bang. But yeah, so obviously you were trying to do. So I mean, what it's interesting. Had you been drawn to self-defense, for instance, as a way of dealing with mental health issues as well, then? Because I know some people had, because obviously we rebranded as Self-Defense and Wellbeing Society.
Yeah. I'd basically come along to Student Minds because of that, because that
Okay.
was the other one we were in.
Yep.
And then when I joined Student Minds, that was when I obviously got to know you guys and then learned that self-defense was a thing as well. And sort of was like, and then came along to that as well. And that actually turned out really well, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't initially the thing I was going for to try and help with it, but it's something that turned out to help quite well.
Yeah, it is weird because I think people misunderstand how you deal with you're like, oh well, you go along to hit people, that's not good for mental. Yeah, it is. Shut up. But so how have you found, obviously you had a lot of issues there when you were 15. Ironically, the exact same year that I was first put on antidepressants as well.
Oh,
But I say same year, same age, not year.
okay. Yeah.
I was 15 as well. Not the first thing I was diagnosed with. That was OCD at 9 because my brain hates me. But at 15 as well, it's interesting because I wonder whether that's just a time period that obviously, like you say, when teenagers are kind of all over the place, it tends to be
Yeah.
a time when things can happen, and obviously with your friends and everything like that. So do you do anything, or are you on anything now? Like, do you go to counseling or anything to deal with that? Or is it just a case of, I've got a good boyfriend now, I've got a good job, I don't care?
I do have a good boyfriend and a good job. But
I
it's
don't even
not
know
every
your boyfriend. No, I'm being nice to him. So, hey boyfriend.
his name is Simon. But yeah. Um I'm not on any tablets at the minute. I came off um maybe 2 years ago now, something like that. But I tried to initially call my GP to try and basically wean myself off of them. But I can't remember exactly what he said, but there was a reason why he didn't want me to come off of them. And
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, because I've been on them for quite a few years at this point. So I was like, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay within myself. I learned loads of stuff, how to deal with my emotions if I was feeling stressed out through the counselling degree. So I was like, okay, I think I'm stable enough. I feel like I don't need these anymore.
Mm.
So no, so basically, because the GP didn't say or give me a way to come off of them, I just went cold turkey and went off of them.
Mm.
No, you're not supposed to, but it was okay. I was very up and down for maybe a month, but I was expecting that. I was sort of like, okay, if I'm feeling like my moods are going up and down, like the extreme euphoria or the depression, like I know, like it's the meds because I've come off of them, and that's how I sort of dealt with going cold turkey on them.
Yeah.
And after about a month or so, it sort of evened out a bit, and now I feel a lot more sort of just steady and stable. Because when I was on them, especially when it got put up, I felt quite numb to a lot of things.
Mm.
So like, I think things would happen, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is a really good like thing to happen. I should be feeling really, really happy right now." And I just felt like a little bit of joy, and I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah, I feel now I'm not more sort of
you can,
even with my emotions because I've sort of dealt with it, and it's kind of better
yeah.
now that I'm.
That is one of the worst things about fluoxetine, depending on the person, that it does just it it suppresses everything. Because I mean, the idea of it is it's meant to make sure that you don't drop, but at the same time, it also means you can't climb. So
Yeah,
you do kind of get stuck in the middle. You become very much like a Vulcan from Star Trek. It's any of the geeks out there. I'm currently watching Star Trek literally before this, so but it's
I was watching Young Sheldon. They mentioned Star Trek in there.
I won't even get into the bad representation of mental health in that show. But anyway, but it's yeah, it is interesting because obviously meds can be very helpful at the right time, but I do think, especially in mental health more than anything else, there is a want to just assume that they're going to solve everything for a lot of doctors. And most doctors in the UK, especially, aren't mental health trained. That's why, for instance, you were sent to Laurel House because the doctors wherever you were weren't mental health trained,
Yeah.
and that's problematic. So, is that what kind of drove you towards doing a degree to help people? Then was that from your own experiences?
Yeah, it was. It was because obviously I mentioned that the friends that
Yeah.
healed themselves, I was very much the sort of agony aunt within that friend group. So I was the one that they would come to, and when they were feeling low, I would be the one that tried to lift them up, kind of thing.
Mm.
And I struggled quite a while with accepting the fact that if someone wants to go, there's like you cannot physically change their mind.
Mm.
Like there's things you can do to help. You can try and you can do things and they can get help from other places. But I very much took the responsibility of her death because I was like, okay, I'm the one that can help, but I couldn't in that situation. So I was like 15, like I didn't know what to do.
Lobau Spark is proudly supported by Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, Casey Elliott, Sarah Delano, Justin Allingham, Blushing Crafter, Jamie Young, and Beth Jones. It is now also supported by 14 anonymous supporters. And I understand that completely. I know I can swear and all that kind of shit. If you want to support it and be anonymous, I get it. I get it. Whether you want to be mentioned by name or remain anonymous, this podcast does not exist without all of you. And I love you.
And yeah, exactly. And so I struggled with quite a while with like not being able to physically help. And that's one of the reasons I was like, okay, I want to learn how to help people. So like, although I can't, you can't physically change people's minds. Sometimes you can help, you can try, which is what's the important part. That's why I kind of went into that. So I was like, okay, I want to be someone that can help and has the knowledge to be able to help.
Yeah, I think for a lot of time it's the case that you're not changing their mind yourself. What you're doing is keeping them going until they have chance to change their own mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in the moment, and that moment can change. They can be suicidal in one. This is something that NCIS and CSI and everything else gets fucking wrong all the time. When they go, oh, this person has bought frozen food, therefore they were clearly murdered. No, that's not how somebody that, yeah, the amount of times I've seen shit like that. That's not how someone with suicidal depression works. It's the case that they
Very up and down.
yeah, they could have started the day on an absolute high and ended it, wanted to end it, and then they'll go to sleep and be fine again. It's so you are just basically keeping them going until then and trying to make sure that they can bolster themselves against the next time they go down. So so what was the kind of full title of your degree, and what did it kind of involve?
It was called Counselling, Coaching and Mentoring. Realistically, I don't remember anything from it, not gonna lie.
Always worrying.
It was over 2 years ago now. I remember obviously how to I can't even think. I haven't thought about it in a while. My job doesn't really use it. So my brain's just full of crap that isn't anything to do with that really. But yeah, it was very much just focused on I can't even think of an example. Uni's great.
I mean, I have a stupid memory, so I don't have this issue. But
Yeah.
it is interesting because the only thing I remember from your course is how upset they made you.
Oh,
Was the irony of the course.
it was awful. It was awful.
So
Right.
yeah, go on, please.
Story of them. Basically, it was a course that was obviously very much focused on mental health, and we had to make a poster about some specific theory at the time.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, when you present this, you're going to be presenting it to in a group of like 4 or 5 people, because they were going to have little groups. And for someone who's not very good at talking in front of people, like myself, I was like, okay, can we choose the 4 or 5 people kind of thing? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. You can get yourself into your groups. You can just present to that people and the teachers. And we were like, or lecturers. And I was like, yeah, that's okay. I can present to the people that I know, and it's all good. And there was lots and lots of other people in the class that were very similar to that. And then we turned up on the day with our posters and that, ready to do our, like, I think they said 2-minute presentation it was meant to be. And it was basically, we were going up one at a time in front of the whole like course, which was like 40 people. And they had people from the year above that were doing the same course and other lecturers in there. And we were like, why would you not tell us this? Like, if you want us to present to that amount, you need, like, we need to prepare. Like, some people aren't going to be able to do it. And I wasn't even the worst one. Like, there was my friend who was next to me who was physically like crying her eyes out about the fact that she had to do this. And I was just like sitting there like, oh, this is a mental health thing. You're seeing people are upset. And these lecturers were just like, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. And it's like, no.
Yeah, I mean,
it was crazy.
For a course that's literally on mental health, and anyone wondering, oh yeah, but there's just a few extra people, you obviously don't suffer from social anxiety. You know, from anybody that's suffering social anxiety, generalized anxiety, anything like that, and then it's completely changed for you. I mean, even anybody that has that has some form of ASD or anything like that, it's a change in something that you weren't expecting, because I was working obviously at a different department, different school of the university. The first thing I knew about it is you coming in crying, and
yeah, I was like, oh my god, what can I do? Who can help? Adam,
I had to kind of be big brother and kind of go a little bit on the warpath against a department that because I worked for the business school. Yeah. The business school should not have to come to the rescue of a student that's doing a mental health course. And we were the ones that were actually better on mental health. And you know, we had a few lecturers that actually were very good with mental health, but we had to deal with the mental health and try and then come over to the mentoring side and go, what the fuck are you doing? Which is insane. The idea that, you know, if anything, the nursing, the mentoring, the mental health, those are the psychology, those are the departments that you should be going to from other courses, not the ones that other people are coming to you for.
Yeah.
And it is kind of crazy. And how did that kind of continue for you? And did you ever think about kind of progressing with it anymore? Did it kind of put you off completely?
It just made me not want to deal with the lecturers anymore, really. Because they basically said, I asked about it. It was they basically, but because of all of the drama and everything that happened, obviously they got from the business lot that like, why have you done that? They did a little class with the people who didn't do it. So there was about 7 or 8 of us who were like, I can't do this, and left. So they did a little class of that, and they sort of let us do our own presentations as they said they were originally going to. And I asked them like, why did that happen? Why did it change? And the lecturer said to me, we said last year that this is how we were going to do it. And because that people thought they were going to be presenting in front of lots of people didn't turn up. So we told you that it was smaller amounts of people, so you would turn up and do it.
So we did something
awful.
Actively engaged to cause anxiety in a course. What the flying fuck? I really want to call the university off, and I would do on my podcast, but this is not my podcast. I know Lobel's probably going to watch this and be like, "Oh no, you could have done it," but I can't because it's not my podcast. But you, university, you know exactly who the fuck you are, and you know that I don't give a shit. But my podcast. Go over. Anyone's wondering, and Lobel won't mind me doing this. The It's Good to Talk podcast. Go over to that. I mentioned that university more than once. In fact, I mentioned specific lecturers because fuck them. And that's specifically up for the challenge. Nothing to do with anything else. Me, okay? Me. Anyway, that's, I mean, that should be, in my mind, that should be a firing offence if you're on a course that does mentoring and is around mental health. You don't go, basically, we've decided to lie to you, induce anxiety that another school of the university has to try and deal with because you are worried people won't turn up. How about just find a different way of actually getting the results of the course? That obviously doesn't work.
I think realistically, if they would have actually done what they said they were going to do with the small groups, all of us, or at least most of us, would have been completely fine.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it was like we weren't even told that there was a change. It was just sort of happening.
Yeah.
And we were just like, this isn't what we were told was going to happen.
No, it's that. I mean, it's just unacceptable.
Not good.
Yeah. Did that? So, were you ever thinking of like going and progressing on in terms of counseling and doing that as something, or did you kind of get put off of the idea?
I don't think it really put me off of it. I think just learning more about counselling in general put me off of it because I like the idea of helping people, but specifically counselling is very, very hardcore. And I know that with my past mental health struggles, I would struggle dealing with someone who was very suicidal and things like that, because I've dealt with people like that in the past. And I know that if I was trying to counsel someone that was going through that sort of thing, I could let my own biases come into it. And obviously, I was a bit like, it's very, very likely if you're doing counselling, you're going to come across people that are like that. And I was like, I don't want that to then make me go downhill again, because I didn't want to go into that same cycle of thinking I could help and then getting upset when I can't help, or I can't get someone out of that specific like low point. So I think I could have gone into it, but realistically, either I wouldn't have lasted very long or it would have been at a detriment to me. So I've sort of gone down a career route now where, well, I was a carer first, which obviously I use lots of the skills from that anyway.
Yes.
But yeah. And now I've more gone into a career path where I'm just talking to people who are upset, but I'm not the person that's sort of meant to counsel them. I like take their information and help them and things, but it's difficult because I can't actually say what it is. But I'm trying.
You're the kind of first port of call to kind of get them to where they can go on to somebody else that needs them.
Yeah, exactly. So I like take information, send them somewhere specific, know that somewhere specific is helping.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's. I suppose it does. It does. I mean, your background there, it does help because it means that you can do that initial thing. You can get them to the point where they can then move on to talk to someone. Because I would assume a lot of people coming to you don't necessarily really want to get to that next point, and so that could be very difficult.
Yeah, it sort of depends on the situation, but we do get people that are like obviously upset and things, and I'm quite good at calming them down because I've learned those skills. So it was really good to learn. It just had its down points as well, but it did sort of teach me that I didn't want to be full-time in that sort of mental health career. So it was useful.
Yeah, and I mean, it gave you something. It is one of the worst things I think about many degrees or many career paths, is that the more you learn, the less you want to do it. It's like me when I was a teacher. As someone that literally comes from a politics background, when I was a teacher, teaching is the most political thing ever, and that includes politics. So, like, I've never come across people so ruthless and backstabbing as other teachers. Politicians are way nicer than teachers. I'm sorry. Any teachers out there, just, and that's not all teachers, but the upper management of, or certain teachers just want to be dicks. It seems to be the career path you go into, which is why many of us don't like our teachers. Lecturers are fine, but teachers. But yeah, so it is okay. Lecturers, yeah, no, there's a couple that there's a couple that I don't think should be lecturing at the same university, in fact. But yeah, it is obviously difficult, but it's good that it's got to the point where you now have kind of found that. And it's interesting because I mean, universities, schools, everything like that do seem to fall down so much when it comes to mental health. I think, again, on my own podcast, I've made my thoughts very well known in terms of the university that I worked at and Lauren was at, about how well they dealt with mental health, which was they didn't. And when I was running the self-defense course or self-defense society, it was originally called the Self-Defense Society, but someone passed away. Someone took their own life that we knew, and so it became the Self-Defense and Wellbeing Society, and it became the kind of the self-defense people had to try and be a bit more dealing with self-defense. Sorry, it's dealing with mental health than the people that were meant to be doing it.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult because I mean I did become at one point a kind of one-man army to just shout at people who weren't doing what
It was great when you needed it though.
yeah, but it's
Because like that happened, and I was like, and like people would like, I'd say your name or like mention you in emails, and then lecturers would be like, oh.
I like that idea. I don't know why, but I like that idea because that's not a department I was necessarily straight on with. I like the idea of that I was the name that just went fuck no. But yeah, I mean, it's I expressly pushed myself to be that because it always seems to me, especially in university, that they would take your money and leave you by the wayside. And the worst thing about mental health was unless you had someone that was prepared to, I mean, I'll be honest, at times put to the detriment of their own mental health, to shout at people, um, your voices weren't loud enough. I was, and there was, there's a few, it wasn't just me, but you needed someone that would just be like, I just don't give enough of a shit about you. I'm going to scream at you until you do as you goddamn told. I was almost unfireable at that university. I remember telling one of the senior management team that they were lying to people in an open meeting, but they couldn't do anything. But it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that you have a loudmouth, in your face person to shout your message. It should be that everyone else's message should be there. Because I'll be honest, I don't want to be the person shouting at people. I know that may be surprising for some people out there. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the person that screams and shouts and just stands in the way. But it becomes a kind of, well, okay, but they can't. I've got to be that voice. So, and that's the problem with the universities a lot of the time and schools is that that's kind of what they push. I mean, did you find, obviously you were saying there's a lot of people in your own course as well. Did you find for many of them that kind of everyone was being let down? I mean, obviously we're only going from one university, but we'll look at it in terms of universities in general or education as general. Did you find that much of them were being let down by the very course that was meant to be helping people?
Yes. Like, I can't think of any specific people that like went to the what was it they called it? The little section in the library where the counselling was meant to be.
So it's just the counselling waiting area, as I always knew it.
Little section of the library.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but like they basically tried to do this open thing, didn't they? Where you could sort of come in and do slots and things if you needed to talk to someone. But I tried to go to them a couple of times and they were very sort of iffy with whether you could put your name up, which was weird. So it wasn't like, unless you were known to be someone like that, had some reason already to be like in contact with them, they didn't really like to talk to you or like to really give you any like ways to move forward with any sort of help or any sort of counselling and things. Like I remember I was told once that the wait to see someone for an emergency was 6 weeks. And I was like, what?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. So bad. Because it's like, if you're an emergency, this is what you're here for. Like, you should be available if one of your students is in the middle of a crisis. And they were like, no, sorry, it's a 6-week wait for you to talk to anyone. And it's like, and they just went, well, you can call 101. And it's like, thanks.
Yes, and I mean, an emergency is an emergency. It's just that.
Mm,
6 weeks, if you're just waiting and you're worried about that you're going to be stressed out for exams or something, that's one thing. But
yeah.
going, hey, yeah, I'm in an absolute emergency. I'm on the edge now. Okay, see you in a month and a half. The fuck?
So really?
So I mean, did you find that, was that the case for basically everyone on your course or others that you knew? Because obviously you had some interaction with the University of Mental Health, obviously the
Yeah.
society, the Student Mind Society, and everything else. So did you find that it was just the case that it was almost everywhere you turned that there were students struggling then?
I think specifically, I can get my words out. Specifically because I was in student minds and I did the tea and toast
In
thing that
toast.
we,
Yep.
huh?
I love tea
Yeah,
and toast. I don't, that wasn't, I can't take credit. Tea and toast, I think I stole from somewhere else, but I liked it.
yeah, we did our own little version of it, and so people came there, and people who came were stressed out. They did, even like the were on different courses. They hadn't got any sort of help, so we became sort of a pseudo help for them because the university wasn't doing anything. So it was not good. And it wasn't just our uni. My sister goes to, am I allowed to say the uni?
You would be on mine, but I don't know about low bells. But another university in England.
Another university,
Yeah.
a bit up. There we go.
Okay.
But a bit up from here is anywhere, because we're right down the bottom.
Okay.
So yeah, and she, I can't remember exactly what they said to her, but I know she went for help to her university like team and her mental health team, and they didn't offer her any counselling, didn't offer her any help, sort of said a similar thing. And so I don't think it's specifically just that uni. Seems to be the majority of them that just sort of, as you said earlier, like take your money, then say they have this service available because they sort of need to say that they have a service available, but then it's not actually usable,
Yeah,
which isn't.
it's not great. I mean, I can put the positive on this because I can do this bit on Low Bow's podcast. I know this. I can give you two universities where I know it does work and they do it. Okay, University of Kent, which is also in Canterbury. The University of Kent they are much better. They have individualized mental health people kind of per oh my God, per course. So you have someone much nearer to you to be able to contact rather than the university overall. Also, the University of Glasgow, the other end of the country, are absolutely phenomenal at it. Unsurprising, University of Glasgow, or they're a Russell Group university. If you're in the US, that's similar to Ivy League. And they also have a master's. They also have a master's they offer in global mental health and things like that. So it's unsurprising that they might have some people that understand this, but I have to say they are also very good at it. So there are universities out there that actually do understand what it means for things like that as well. So we can't lambast all of them, unfortunately. I do think particular universities I know are the worst. I have a list of them that I will get to chat all of them at some point. But there are some out there that actually can do it and do care. So that's always nice to hear as well. But the other thing I suppose as well is that I'm guessing for a lot of people, a lot of older people as well, probably think, oh, well, students, they're just going to be stressed out. Of course, you're stressed out. It's just university. Get on with it. Did you find with a lot of people that it was more than just exam stress, or because I think that's the thing that everyone goes, well, everyone's going to be stressed at these exams. Did you find there was a lot more than that that wasn't being addressed as well when you were studying?
Well, my course wasn't exams. I had no exams, so we didn't really have that on my course. But it seemed to be with the people that joined the specific course, counselling, coaching, and mentoring, lots of them already had mental health problems and reasons why they wanted to learn that sort of thing.
Right.
So it felt like those sort of people were more vulnerable to it, which obviously wasn't great, especially with how they were handling some of the assignments and stuff. But yeah, so it was a bit worse specifically for people in my course, I think, because it wasn't just the general uni stress, which is incredibly stressful anyway and incredibly difficult to go through.
Yeah.
But some of them had quite a lot of other issues going on as well, which made it worse.
So it's kind of that, it's the catch-22 of, you want to be the people that are helping someone, but the problem is the reason you want to be able to help people is because you're the ones that are also suffering. And so you
Yeah,
understand, it's that kind of, never wanting someone to feel the pain that you felt.
exactly.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult, obviously. So, I mean, would you have, now that you're out of university, I don't know if you have any plans about going back and doing a master's or anything like that. Let's see.
Probably not.
Always, always. I'm an education junkie, but do you have any thoughts of how maybe a university one could improve itself, and also just a way of sorting out that kind of course that should be there for people?
I don't know. It's a bit difficult because, like, you can't really say specific ways because I think it depends on each individual course and how it's handled and things. But with what happened, which was the big sort of blow up for me to go, oh, this is really bad. If they would have just told the truth about what we were going to do for that assignment, it would have been a lot easier. And I think what it was that you were describing at UKC sounded pretty good. That sort of thing. If they've got specific people who are there if you do need help, because realistically, those people are never going to be short of work. Like, there's so many people at uni that need help with their mental health. So that sort of thing would massively help, and realistically would raise the grades of people if they're.
Well, it would do a UKC because you get zero if it's late. So it's a very different way of doing it. Because that's the irony as well, that the university that you went to, if things were late, you just got a few marks knocked off. UKC, which I posit is a far better for people's mental health. If you were late, it's zero. So it's that weird thing of I agree with that more. That's 100% technically worse for someone, but clearly they have a better track record with mental health. So
so well worked out if these people are okay or people are better.
That's the thing as well. I mean, so the UKC, for those people that there for the course, they're kind of an administrative more than anything else, but they're administrative immediately there. So they are the people you go to, kind of like what my role was when I was at the university, because I dealt with a lot of things, but one of the express things that I kind of dealt with fully, and I actually enacted policy change for the university, was on extenuating circumstances. So giving people an extension, making sure that those things could happen, because I changed it so that I made it at one point so that my signature was good enough for the university to give someone an extension. So that was kind of something that I did. So that's kind of part of what the role would be for UKC as well. But yeah, you're right. It's difficult depending on the individual subject, but to try and get it. Maybe just have some. I mean, not lying, I think, is the big one. Don't lie to students. Just be like, hey, look, even if because I don't know about you. I mean, I wonder if they'd have said to you, hey, this is going to be 40, 50 people, load of lecturers, but they just said to you, would it have been a case of, okay, well, we can't do that, or hey, we need to figure out a better way of doing that? Would it have been easier to deal with than the lie?
Oh yeah, definitely. 100%. I would have just emailed and been like, I don't think I can do that.
Yeah.
Is there alternatives? Or because because realistically, if I would have been made to do that, I would have just gone up there and froze. So I wouldn't have got any marks anyway. So it's like a smaller group, yeah, a few people, yeah, I can do that. But that amount of people, just nah. It's just not going to happen. So if they would have told the truth about it, people would have been able to get used to it, then sort of try and go through the process of, this is how we can make it a bit better, this is how we can deal with people's specific needs that they have, then it would have been just a lot better for everyone, really. Because even the people that were presenting, there were people crying in the background while they were presenting. So they would have known that was going on. So it was an awful situation for everyone involved, even the people who weren't anxious about it. They were just like presenting up here while people are crying in the background. So it was just awful.
Yeah. That was, I think that was the only part of university that I could do. The exams were the pain in the ass for me. But yeah, it is ridiculous that that's part of it, because simply telling someone the truth immediately, it hurts all of it. I was going to say, I've just got a couple more things. So I was wondering, is there anything that you think is now, because so to give you an idea on kind of Lobao for the podcast and everything, Lobao's big thing is basically friendship solves everything. It is Lobao's way of thinking.
I get that. I like that.
So I was going to ask, is there anything that, apart from, yes, stuff has just stabilized for you, is there anything that you think is kind of the biggest catalyst, or something that's been the reason that you've continued on and you haven't gone down the worst path? Or, is there something that you think you try and look for, or that you think has been the main thing for you?
Every time I've had a bit of a dip like that, it has always been, I'm gonna double check. Yeah, is a friend that's said something, or gone, oh, I need you to help me with this, or I need to do this in like the 2 weeks or something. And I'm like, okay, I love this person. I need to be here for that. So I think realistically, it has always been friends that have got me out of that sort of frame of mind when I have had a dip.
Right.
So yeah, I think realistically that sort of mantra of the friendships can solve everything, or like
Just having those connections that
yeah,
needed to message someone at 2 o'clock in the morning, you'd get a response, kind of thing.
exactly, yeah. And it is really important to have someone like that, because it makes you not feel alone. And that alone feeling is when you sort of get in that frame of mind, when you feel alone, it's a lot more difficult to come out of it. Whereas if you think, okay, I can call this person, it'll be fine, they're not going to be annoyed, or I can just go to this person's house, they'll be completely fine. That does tend to, well, for me personally anyway, just make it a lot less lonely. So like if you do have a dip, it's, you can share your feelings, and then it builds you up a bit.
Yeah, you have that sounding board rather than anything else. So it's just having someone there, basically. Communication, connection, everything else. Okay, I mean, thank you for coming on and sharing a bit about. I mean, we went around the houses, but that's just how I talk anyway in general. But it is interesting that, given your educational background, it's kind of almost pushed you away from that specifically, but then at the same time was a cause of more stress and more mental health issues, which is somewhat worrying, which I'm sure Lobao will love, because we don't need these bloody counselors and but yeah, I mean, I will sign off by asking the same question that Lobao asks every time. This has to be specifically about you, can't be about anybody else. What are you most proud of?
Oh,
No one ever has an answer to hand at this.
yeah, it's difficult. Physically, I'm most proud of the fact that I built a whole tortoise table a month ago, and that was impressive, because I didn't
Sorry,
think
a what table?
a tortoise table. Let me show you.
Okay, get on a tour. What the
Um,
heck?
A whole tortoise enclosure. That's the dehumidifier in front
Okay,
of it.
that's a little bit more impressive than saying, oh, it's a tortoise table, which makes me think of like, a coffee table or something. That's a whole goddamn enclosure.
There we go. That's physically, but emotional wise, personal wise, I am very proud of the fact that I can now deal with the fact that people are upset, and it's not my responsibility to fix it. You can try, you can help, but I used to have a very big problem with the fact that if I couldn't immediately make someone feel better, I very much took that upon myself. And then it was massively a detriment to me. So I'm very proud that I can accept that sometimes it's not me that can help, it's someone else that can help. They need something that isn't me here. And I don't take that personally anymore.
Okay. So you've been you're kind of proud of being able to look after yourself, basically, which is something I think a lot of us do struggle with, which is why my mantra is always turn on your light first. So I will not sign off the same way that Lobao does, because I find it strange, Lobao, and you're watching it. So, not doing it. But thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. I don't know whether it's going to be me on here next time, whether it's going to be Lobao or one of the others from the community. But I hope you've enjoyed this. If you're a normal watcher that is wondering what the hell Lobao is doing, yeah, I know that Angry Brett had to take over this week, but I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks, everyone.